and I have like a zero
Welcome to Media Path. I'm Fritz Coleman.
And I'm Louise Palanker.
We love to bring back memories of television you grew up with, and our guest today has had at least a brief appearance on many of the most memorable shows on television starting in the 70s. He's Keith Coogan, an actor, a writer, a producer, a director, a radio show and podcast host. He's also the grandson of a man who changed the landscape of the entertainment business. His grandfather was Jackie Coogan, who enacted the Coogan Act, which protects child actors from losing their earnings to nefarious family dealings. It's a really interesting and sad story. Keith will be right with us. Weezy, what do you got for it?
Fritz, this week on Netflix, I watched North of North, which is very far north.
How was that?
If your geography is on point. I think it's fantastic. In North of North, Siaya is a 26-year-old wife and mother in the tiny Canadian Arctic town of Ice Cove, Nunavut. She's married to the local golden boy, Ting, handsome, dashing, and scathingly narcissistic. A charm buster that hits a tipping point when Ting guns his fishing boat in pursuit of a seal, sending Siaya flying into the frozen water, and then calls her an embarrassment. She defrosts, packs up her daughter, and moves in with her mom. Not an immediate emotional security upgrade because the mother-daughter bond is as icy as the surrounding tundra. But while the town watches and gossips, Siaya embarks on a career at the community center, discovers her birth father, begins dating, and forges a new understanding of her mother, herself, and her place in the world. The show was filmed in Iqaluit, the real-life capital of the Arctic Canadian territory of Nunavut, and creator-producers Stacey Aglak MacDonald and Alethea Arn Akuk Baril carefully engaged with the local community across generations in an effort to properly represent the culture. The North of North team even hosted a mentorship program in which local trainees worked and learned various aspects of the filmmaking process, often also performing as background actors. The result is a charming reminder that folks the world over share the same hopes and heartaches. It's a window into a stark and wondrous world way up on the edge of the people line from the warm comfort of your own couch. North of North is on Netflix.
Is she indigenous? She looks like she was Inuit or something.
Everyone is. The whole cast, well, unless they were playing Southerners or whatever they call us white folk, everyone, pretty much the whole cast is indigenous. So.
It looks beautifully shot, too.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Well, I'm going to talk about today a book entitled How Democracies Die. It's written by Daniel Ziblatt and Steve Levitsky. They're both Harvard professors. For 20 years, these guys have studied and written about and taught classes on how elected officials in once democratic nations subvert the democratic process in search for their own power. The book was written in 2018, and at the time, it all seemed kind of theoretical, but suddenly what they have to teach has become reality. It's the stories of European and South American democracies, starting in the 30s with Europe and then turning to Turkey and Hungary after Germany and then later to Venezuela. It proves that democracy does not end with a bang or a noisy revolution. It often ends with a whimper. It's a very slow eroding of critical institutions like the judiciary and the press. There's a deep dive into a concept called mutual toleration, which is necessary for democracy. That is, we have to accept the results of a free and fair election, and we have to accept the legitimacy of the opposing party. Without those, democracy cannot exist. The book goes into the guardrails and the off-ramps that can protect us from autocracy, and they admit we've already blown through one of the guardrails by re-electing Donald Trump, knowing all that we knew ahead of time. The writers frankly say that our democracy is definitely backsliding right now. But if we pay heed to the red flags and the present-day realities, we can save ourselves. Coincidentally, this was not in the book, but a very appropriate piece of wisdom I thought I'd share.
Yes.
Quote, Hitler didn't steal power. His people voted for him, and then he destroyed his people. End of quote. That was a quote from a man who we eulogized over last weekend, Pope Francis. I thought it was very timely.
Yes, and Canada,
that was a hopeful turn.
Our Canadian friends just north of us were inspired, almost like having that dad who's like so horrible that he inspires you to be just the opposite. So Donald Trump inspired them to vote for democracy.
That was a fantastic outcome. I was so happy.
We need to learn from them because they still have free and fair elections where I think the winner was the winner. So good on them, but let them serve as an inspiration.
No, that was a positive thing in the news. Absolutely. All right, let's get to our guest. When you hear about this guy's career, you think this guy's a huge multitasker. He's an actor and a writer and a director and a producer and a host with experience in all four corners of show business. His resume reads like a TV guide's greatest hits. Little House on the Prairie, Love Boat, Fantasy Island, Laverne and Shirley, Mork and Mindy, Eight is Enough, Growing Pains, Silver Spoons, Fame, It's a Living, and Chips. An amazing body of work. He's a blogger and a podcaster. He's got a show business podcast called The Call Sheet. We'll get to all of it. Welcome, Keith Coogan.
Wow, what a great intro.
Are you so impressed with you?
Like to have,
Fritz Cole, my goodness.
We like to have an intro as long as your list of credits.
You are like a makeup artist in the morning in the trailer. That was very nice. I appreciate it.
Anyway, how are you? And you drove a long way to be here today, but we're so happy you made time to talk to us.
Hours and hours, 19 miles over in Culver City.
I want to get to your legacy of show business in your family. Not only your grandfather, but his parents as well were vaudevillians and all this. But how did you start? How old were you and how did you start in the business?
I was 4 or 5 watching Sesame Street, Electric Company, Zoom, Via Alegre. We have a show in L.A. And my mom's walking by and she hears me say, I want to be on TV. Now, we had not been in touch with the family. I didn't know my grandfather was in the business.
They were estranged? Really?
My mom was a hippie, a 15-year-old pregnant Catholic schoolgirl runaway who didn't talk to him.
Really?
So she hears me say that and she goes, God, it's in the blood. It's got to be in the blood. So we went down to L.A., tried out a kid agent, Don Schwartz on Sunset. I could read. I could read well. And quick, here's a page of copy. I got it. And he goes, great, let's get, people. And she'd tell, who I was. I can't wait to tell people I got Jackie Coogan's grandson. She goes, no. He's not going to use the name. He's going to go under her married name, Mitchell. And he goes, why would you do that to me? And she goes, well, there's nothing worse for an actor than not knowing why they got cast in a role. So she was aware of Nepo grandbabies even back in the day. Mm-hmm. So I did 10 years of the television under the Keith Mitchell.
But there was also somebody else in SAG-AFTRA that was Keith Mitchell, too. So it was
Keith Mitchell was a British actress, no T, and he'd done great Shakespearean stuff. And I have one credit of mine he has taken on IMDb, a Mike Farrell movie of the week. IMDb, I want my credit back.
We'll let him have that one. So when did you finally meet your grandfather?
Probably about 6, 7, 8 years old. There was a screening of The Kid. Leonard Maltin there. I promptly fell asleep on my grandfather's lap. Afterwards, Leonard Maltin asked my grandfather what he was feeling while watching the movie, and Jack just went, frankly, I was thinking about the money.
Yeah.
It really hurt him to lose millions. And this is the 1920s and 30s millions.
Well, give us a little backstory on what were his parents like and why did that all happen?
I just want to set this up.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful question.
Yeah, go ahead.
But your grandfather was the first child star in Hollywood. He was in The Silence, and then Charlie Chaplin cast him in The Kid. He was the kid in The Kid, and that's when all of his wealth started, and that's when all hell broke loose. I just wanted to say
right
that.
after The Kid, Chaplin gave him the cap, the red college sweater that was Chaplin's sweater. That's Jack's little costume from The Kid. He goes, well, we're done working together. Great to, And my grandfather was heartbroken. He goes, what do you mean? And he goes, well, I've told the story. Chaplin said, I'm not going to go back to this material, so character's yours. And so my grandfather ran off to Metro and MGM and did a series of The Kid knockoffs. My Boy, Daddy, Peck's Bad Boys, and Tom Sawyer. He did the first $1 million budgeted movie over at MGM, and he earned between $2 and $4 million. A lot of it merchandising.
Wow!
After The Kid,
like what would people buy?
Dolls and sheet
Hats,
music,
clothes.
peanut butter tins, pencil cases. There was bootleg merchandise.
Whoa!
And the family went, oh no, sued them, and then started licensing their own. So a lot of that money was through merchandising.
Yeah, and the $4 million, that's in like real-time
50
money.
to 60 million in today's
Yeah, I was going to
earnings.
say. And that's why the Coogan Act was necessary, because he ended up with nothing.
So how does it get squandered? What
Yeah.
are they buying for themselves?
So my great-grandfather, who started in vaudeville and silence, two real shorts with Fatty Arbuckle, Buster Keaton, he had promised the $1 million trust fund and ran the businesses and died in a terrible car wreck that killed Junior Durkin, Jack Coogan Sr., a writer for the Jack Coogan Productions, and a ranch hand for Coogan Ranch. They were down kind of near San Diego, about a degree south of the border. Everybody died in the car but my grandfather. My great-grandmother quickly married the business manager. They went through the money in months. It was gone. He sued his own mother in California court, and he lost because California has a funny law that a minor can't sign a contract. So whose money whose money is it? 48 hours after the trial ended, California drafted the Coogan child. I like to say he's the first, world's first film child star. He's also the first former child star.
That's right. And explain what the Coogan Act does.
Coogan Act does a couple of protections. So in 1938, Roosevelt passed the for minors working on farms and mines, and they had a Shirley Temple cutout. Kids in the entertainment industry did not have to adhere to any sort of labor law.
Oh, really?
So they were worked long hours, unsafe conditions, no schooling. So that's what they said. They said, you know what, there's going to be a social worker on set. They're going to act as a teacher. They're going to give them schooling. They can also keep them away from the train or the horse or Alec Baldwin or whatever is going on the set.
The dangers.
They do 15% of their money set aside into a trust, into a blocked trust account called a Coogan account. I get 1% of every child's earnings through. No, I don't get any of that. And then they also do working hour restrictions.
It keeps, and I was actually surprised at how little of money they require they put in that account. It's only 10% or something.
15%. If you think about it, if you're on a series, you're in the 38% tax bracket. You got 10% to the agent, 20% to the manager, union dues, your materials, your training, your stylist, your nanny, your attorney. I'm sorry, the kids don't have a name. Well, yeah, they do. So that 15% is about appropriate. And also the parents have to live in accordance with their income, not the child's income. That's part of the law. They've expanded it in 15 states to online.
Yeah,
to protect young
influencers.
Yeah. Ryan makes $10 million a year unboxing toys. He's a little 8-year-old. So his home is his work site.
But
does he get breaks and lunch, and is he going to keep some of the money?
But are they able to enforce it when people's living room is the set?
No. So making it law in each state is interesting because then the attorneys general can kind of enforce that, have a mechanism. Perhaps they'll say, hey, guess what? We work with the media companies, the online YouTubes and such, and go, well, we've established this as a minor. So the income that goes from the ad revenue goes two places. 85% goes to the parents, 15% goes to an established block trust account. It's easy.
So with the law named for your family, was there a lot of pressure on your mom for you to have a pretty fat little nest egg waiting for you?
She was the closest watch stage mother in entertainment history.
I'm guessing.
She would go to court, and we're fine on the money thing. Where we weren't, but she's very creative because we started on welfare, Salvation Army toys, living in a converted tennis change room on Malibu Colony, and then we moved up to a 1-bedroom apartment. I'm doing episodics and guest appearances. And then finally I got the Waltons. And I bought a 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom house in the poor part of Malibu West. And it's across the street from the beach, tract homes. You have to share a private beach club with 200 other homes. It's terrible. But my mother hasn't worked a day since I was 6.
Well, see, that's the other thing. I mean, you could make a moral judgment on parents that take 85% of a child's earnings, particularly if they're really on a successful thing, and say, well, what are they doing with all the money? But a lot of times, and I don't know if this is what your mother's circumstance was, but driving the kid around and representing the child or being an advocate for the child is their job.
That's right. So a momager, we made an arrangement where I just paid her $1,000 a month, whether I worked or not. Now in the 70s, that's some significant income, but I looked at my income breakdowns, and that was actually a really good deal for me. I wasn't paying 20%. We would go to court for a TV show, and she'd go, can we put 30% in? And the judge would go, that's not how it works. She goes, I'm a Coogan. I can put whatever I want in that account.
Oh.
Some people put too much and realize there's taxes they have to pay. They have no place. There are some parents, and this is awful. Not only were earnings taken, but then they never paid the taxes for the child. So they hit 18, find out they have no money, and a huge bill from the IRS.
That's what happened to the Cowsills.
Really?
And they weren't adhering to any Coogan law because they're child singers, and they weren't.
Tangential story. I'm Keith. I was born in 1970, product of the Summer of Love. And I asked my mom, am I a cool Keith, like Keith Haring, named after like Keith Richards? Keith Moon. She said, no, Keith Partridge.
Are you serious? What an honor.
My grandfather did 2 episodes of The Partridge Family.
Did he really? What did he play?
Uncle something, neighbor, guest, Tuesday.
So did you, being an actor, did that help mend the relationship between your mom and your grandfather?
Well, my mom and my grandfather had a great relationship. Daddy's little girl. Absolutely. There's a great photo of her at 10 dressed as the kid between 2 huge boxers.
No, but you said you were estranged. She was estranged.
Oh, no. They had reconnected around that time.
Okay.
And when we bought the house, I bought the house. When we bought the house, summers in Palm Springs where my grandfather had retired were terrible. And my grandmother was an Earl Carroll girl. My grandfather married 4 showgirls.
Yeah, one of them being Betty Grable.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe
he had
it.
a type.
And you were born
they
in
would
Palm
spend
Springs,
summers with
correct?
us, so they would come. I was born in Palm Springs.
Never met anybody that was born there. I know a lot of people
I
have died
found
there, but I've never
video of they're promoting the new hotel, and it's Jack and Betty and a bunch of other, like MGM stars. The hotel was changed into Desert Regional, and that's where I was born. I have footage of my grandparents promoting the hotel that turned into the hospital where I was born. Strange. And I have friends that don't have pictures of their grandparents, great grandparents. I have 2 real shorts on YouTube. I can watch my great grandfather do his, bits. That's very weird. And
So tell us what your great grandfather did.
He did part of the Orpheum tour. Married. My great grandmother was a sister act, also in vaudeville. Grandfather born in a trunk. And in L.A., the shimmy had been banned by the dance clubs. You can't.
It's scandalous.
Slapsy Maxie, Coconut Grove. No, you cannot have a dancer do the shimmy. But a 4-year-old boy doing the shimmy at the end of the night brought the house down. Chaplin said that kid is great. And my great-grandmother did not recognize him out of makeup. And so she goes, who is this man that wants to talk to my boy? And they arranged a meeting at a hotel where my grandfather fell asleep in the lobby, and they talked about it. He rehearsed the rock-throwing scene with him really quickly. And he saw that my grandfather was a great mimic, and Chaplin would play every part if he could. He would show the actors exactly how to do something, and my grandfather could do that. Having been born in the trunk, he could pick up the numbers, and he knew what the bit was. He was a little over-performative.
But, and then the arc of his life is wonderful because then he became Uncle Fester on the Addams Family, and he probably had more fame out of that part than the stuff he did in the Silence. Because
he took the fame from the kid and the early Silence, and he became the first celebrity to lend his name to a humanitarian cause. The Near East Relief. He raised millions of dollars of goods and clothes to take to the camps from the Armenian genocide.
Really?
Yes. Admission to a Jackie Coogan picture was an article of clothing or a can of condensed milk. And he went off. He met the Pope and Mussolini, dropped the stuff off at Greece, and it was a huge deal. Later, he fought in the war. 3 days after Pearl Harbor, as a child, he'd had pilot lessons. So he goes, I've got flight experience. And he became a glider pilot in the Burma campaign. And this is all after he divorced Betty Grable. So he's flying, a third of the pilots he's flying with have a pinup of his ex-wife.
Yeah.
So you had met, did you have a relationship with him as a
Absolutely.
child?
He taught me chess. He spent the summers with us. And so I'd say from about 7 or 8 years old until he passed when I was 14.
So because of his awful experience, did he try to direct you out of the entertainment business, or what was his?
Nope. He would say, same thing he said to Ken Weatherwax and Lisa Loring on the set of The Addams Family. Watch your money. Be careful of mothers. So my mother was the most closely watched mother, and I got all my money. I'm very happy about that. He wouldn't give me acting lessons. I had a call for Tom Sawyer. Disney's doing a new Tom Sawyer. I go, Grandpa, you did the first talkie version of Tom's. Would you help me with the part? No, that's your choices to make. Whoa, that was kind of weird. He's very competitive, very into the money. If you played Crazy Eights or made a bet with him, $1, if this and this, and he won, he'd go get the money now. And you'd have to break a pig and give him the cash.
Did he recover any that he lost to his parents?
So after the trial, what was left was about $252,000. He got $126,000. Most of it went to pay back Wallace Beery, who had paid for the attorneys, and he was left with $40,000, which he blew in one night in New York with a party at the Waldorf Astoria. He was bad with money. He would have blown it.
Well,
anyway.
maybe he would have blown it all anyway.
You also
and
think
this
you're going to
way,
work forever.
what's that?
I hear you, man.
You think you're going to work forever.
Right, but maybe in the way that life is here to teach us, maybe because he didn't have the money, he kept after it. And he actually, became better at his craft.
He did. He made a lot of friends, producers that would help him make his medical and bring him into town from Palm Springs for here's a Lucy show, here's a Perry Mason, here's a Brady Bunch, a Partridge Family. And he did 2-3 jobs a year, and he was very happy doing that. Yeah, very. And for me, he was competitive. But by the time I was 6 and not the biggest child star in the world, he relaxed because the record could not be broken.
No. So was he the type of person that would sit and share stories with you about what it was like for him, what he remembered, what you probably were going to remember, or what you might forget, and therefore you should make a conscious effort to...
I thought he was a braggart. I thought he'd go, oh, yeah, most kids went to see Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth came to see me.
I love that.
Then I see a photo, and it's true. There's a photo of him, Rudolph Valentino, and Douglas Fairbanks. And it's the three of them. They say the top 3 box office stars. Jack was first because he had 2 movies come out the year. And I'm looking at the photo, and I see he's in costume, the little cap and the overalls. And I asked my mom, Rudolph Valentino and Douglas Fairbanks are not in costume. And I go, Mom, what is this picture? And she goes, oh, they came to visit his set. But then he was very humble about it. The very next year, he was eclipsed by a dog. Rin Tin Tin became the #1 box office star.
Wow.
Oh, so the one thing he did tell me, and this is important because I've lost, fellow actors and friends in this business that were adolescents. You have to be very special to be an adolescent. In this industry, you either have to be completely protected from it all or pretty savvy about it. He said it's cyclical. He's the #1 person that should know that. 5 biggest child star, 50 his comeback.
And would you recommend that right off the cuff that people not put their children in show business?
I love the way you put it. People should not put their children in show business. It's the horizontal test. You let them exposed to theater and a stage, and the kids you have to pull from the theater. Yeah. They're horizontal. They're attached to a set. I need to do this. Yeah. They're the ones with the right constitution for it. I can't tell a kid they can't try it, but there should be a lot of support from adults around and recognize these are still developing children.
You were not on the planet yet when The Addams Family happens, right?
No, my mom was 10.
Oh, okay. So when you watched reruns of that, did you have a lot of questions about how did all this work?
It was a great character.
I wanted to know how him and John Astin did a lot of the physical bits.
Yeah.
Me and Sean Astin, John
talk about
Astin's son,
that
would
story.
sit and watch episodes, and we'd
but
be like,
you and
trying to figure it out.
Sean was John Astin's son, and you guys did a project together.
We did Toy Soldiers together. That's after we had a production company and used to shoot little short videos, throwing Mackenzie out the window, and we'd be like, Patty would come in and she'd go, what are you guys doing? And we're like, we're going to knock Mac out the window and then he's going to fall off. And then the Cadillac's going to come and hit him and he's going to go flying through the air over the fence. She goes, okay, just wear your seatbelts.
In that one sentence, you'd listed like 4 child stars.
Yes, I can name drop like
Patty
the best
Duke
of them.
Yeah.
My neighbors were Jake Busey, Gary Busey's kid. One of my best friends, Gabe, his dad wrote Every Which Way But Loose and Any Which Way. He directed Going Ape, the Casablanca of ape movies. And the thing is that I wasn't ever told that people in the industry were special or magical or deserve any of it. They are incredibly lucky, broken people. They're show folk. Show folk are show folk. Now, the successes are the ones that have a plan, dedication, patience, perseverance, persistence. That's who makes it in this bit. I can't show you how to make it. I can show you how to not make it, quit.
Other than your family, your grandfather, Was your father in the business?
No, it was my mother's father, and she was a writer and a stand-up comedian in the 80s when women weren't allowed to be funny.
that?
We went and saw you at Victoria Station up. Jeanine Garofalo was up that night. I was smoking, and it was back in L.A. You could smoke in comedy clubs and restaurants. And you look me in the eye, Fritz, and you go, stop that. Knock that out. Your body is your instrument. And I was a little jerky 20-year-old, so I listened to you.
This
like,
happened?
You said, "Fuck you, and I'm out of
Fritzy,
here."
this happened?
It
You looked
did.
at this little.
I'm at the age now where I have to be reminded of events, but I appreciate the thought.
You were great too.
Was
a
I?
little blue, and I think that's because people expect the TV persona, and you went a little not too bad.
Well, let's talk Waltons because we had this first crop
great
of
show.
Waltons. They're all their own personalities, but they're pretty golden. These Waltons are pretty golden, and then they start to grow up. And Jim Bob is now taller than Pa, and like we need some kids to just sort of move into town and need us. And in comes you, and now you're a little rascal.
Yes, I'm a little poop. So Michael Learned was kind of done. They gave her tuberculosis and sent her off to the sanitarium. So they brought Aunt Rose, played by the legendary Peggy Ray.
Amazing.
And she brings in me, Martha Nix. We're two little brats. At this time, Cammie Kotler, the youngest, was 18.
Yeah.
So I'm a little, cousin Oliver. We come in, burned the barn, killed the dog, lied, cheated, steal, with the love and the Bible and the, Walton's Mountain behind us.
You were a menace.
We're reformed.
You-
Yeah. I got a lot of Will Gear storylines because he had just died, and so they rewrote plots. And in the Christmas show, the Crew Christmas Festival, they go, "You're doing Will's part. You're going to be Father Christmas." It was a weird honor. The show had been hollowed out. Ralph was still there, but John Boy was gone. They hired a guy that looked just like him with a mole on his face. And they said, he got injured in the war and his face is different. Don't ever fight with the movie studio.
We had Michael Learned on, and she said, I didn't want to do the show after Richard left. I just didn't want another actor to be playing John Boy, and I respect that.
Yeah.
It makes...
Did you have any mentors, adult mentors that sort of took you under their wing?
Oh, my goodness.
People that were a great influence on you?
Mom's various boyfriends. They would at least teach me testosterone, things like motorcycles and truck riding and owning, pit bulls and shooting guns and stuff, so I could take care of myself. But I did. I learned from one of my first jobs, Henry Fonda, a Viewmaster viewer.
Oh, really?
And then, quickly on to a lot of the commercials. You'll, work with people. I got
So
to work
you're-
with how to get ahead in business without really trying.
Robert Morse.
Robert
Thank
Morse.
you. In a Pringles spot.
No.
Me and Robert Morse in an airplane singing, "I've got the fever for the flavor of this chip thing that I'm not going to advertise."
So were you aware, like when you were doing those commercials, were you aware that you were doing the commercials that this actor needs to pay his mortgage this year, but he's huge?
Yeah, and I didn't, and I am just a kid.
Yeah.
And so the pressure is off. There's only 40 kids that can walk, talk, and chew gum at the same time and not burn the place down. And you got a lot of work. You get 1 out of 6 jobs you go up for. So if you didn't book something, like there's a lot of movies I didn't get. The Shining, E.T., Goonies, Gremlins.
Yeah, you auditioned for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and you auditioned to be Ralphie in A Christmas Story.
Yes.
That would be merch at a whole different level.
Lucas, Dream a Little, but I got the movies you get with great casting directors like Mike Fenton and Lynn Stallmaster and Jane Jenkins, Janet Hershenson, Sharon Bialy. These people can look you in the eye and go, they've got it, and they could do the work. We can put however many million a part of this budget is going to ride on their shoulders. I was lucky enough to be in ensemble pieces with really, really good people. Elizabeth Shue, Christina Applegate, Ted Danson, Lloyd Bridges. So it was very hard for me to screw up too bad.
You played Christina Applegate's younger brother in Don't Tell Mama the Babysitter's Dead, which is a cult classic, as is Adventures in Babysitting. Those are two cult classics. Now, when you go out to do autograph signings and stuff, are those the big draws, those two films?
They are. Adventures in Babysitting, Don't Tell Mom, Toy Soldiers, the prep school movie I did with, it's like a little Dead Poets Society meets Die Hard. Lou Gossett Jr. was a great father figure on set. But one credit that really takes down, especially I'm like a heavy, tough guy kind of neighborhood, and they come up, what movies you in and stuff, and they see that I was was Todd the fox from The Fox and the Hound. That takes them. They're like, Fox and the Hound. That takes me. Oh man.
Really?
Yeah. So it's
Whoa.
it's a classically animated Disney film, and that just one credit alone could let me do conventions.
Oh, neat. Well, we have a game called IMDb Roulette.
Yes.
And the rules of the game are as follows. We say the name of a credit, and if you can, you tell us who you played and what you remember about the experience.
I love this.
So,
You can't not do well at this because she knows everything.
yeah, I have IMDb, which is the cheat sheet. So we'll start with the Waltons. Who did you play?
Little Jeffrey Burton.
Jeffrey Burton.
Yes, 18 episodes out of a 26-episode season.
But you did more than one season, right?
No, I just did season 8.
Oh, so what
My mom said I
happens-
was bored. Ralph Waite said, these kids are getting a lot of storylines. I was no longer on the show.
So what's the arc of Jeffrey? What happens to him over the course of those 18 episodes?
2 lines of dialogue. Oh, his dad got sober. We sent him back to Richmond. Done.
Okay. Thanks for coming along down the media path, and however you have found your way to us, we would love for you to like and subscribe and give us a nice review because as creators, it is our appointed duty to ask you to do that. You may also want to find us on Instagram and Blue Sky where we are at Media Path Pod, and on Facebook where our show page is Media Path Podcast and our Facebook group is Media Path with Fritz and Wheezy Podcast Community. If you are listening to our show, we are also a video podcast on YouTube at Media Path Podcast. You can write to us at mediapathpodcast@gmail.com. My TikTok is Louise Palenker, where I post behind-the-scenes peeks and clips from the show. And Fritz's TikTok is Fritz Coleman Comedy. He posts stand-up clips and popular dance crazes. Our website is MediaPathPodcast.com. There you can binge episodes and our spicy newsletter. Thank you so much. On with the rest of the show.
The fans were like, well, we kind of like these kids. I was a sass, though. I would talk back to John Walton. And, oh, man, it was a fun part, though.
So who did you hang out with on that set?
I hung out with school with Cammie Kotler, David, John Boy. Jim Bob,
Yeah.
David Harper. And we ran a paper. We had a total science lab. Because of this, I skipped grades. I wound up going back to school and on-set teaching. One teacher for 3 hours alone is a lot different than
Focused
30
attention.
students.
Absolutely.
I
always wondered
graduated
about that.
high school at 16. I went to college at 16.
Wow.
And it's all because of set. I went to public school outside of that. A lot of kids will go to those special Hollywood schools
Yeah.
where they're not really doing anything. But no, I did, went to Sam
When your
High.
grandfather was working, they didn't have those on-set teachers and all those laws concerning work. You can work for 3 hours and you can work for,
Absolutely not.
No.
And he's producing it, so they're like, we've got so much light, we got to keep shooting.
Oh, yeah.
He
All
did
right,
go
Fritz.
missing once. My
All
grandfather
right.
saw all these people swirling around, and he goes, I'm kind of the center of everything. What if I hid under a boat, overturned? And for hours, people yelling, Jackie, where is he? And Jack Sr. found him, and he just tanned his hide. He never did that again.
Wow. All right, Laverne and Shirley,
Ah. Now, I don't remember the name, but
Bobby McKenzie.
Bobby McKenzie. I played. So Cindy Williams played 2 parts. With the blonde wig, she was Miss McKenzie. And her Cindy is dating a pilot whose ex looks just like her. So I show up at the door with the pilot, and Laverne babysits me. I've always had a problem with babysitters. I got to drink milk and Pepsi with Laverne, hang out with Lenny and Squiggy.
Oh, yeah.
David Landers and Michael McKean do not share with producers what they're doing. That night, Cindy Williams was sick. No dress rehearsal. We're shooting it once in front of a studio audience. And they come over to me and my mom, and David and Michael go, give us the kid. We're going to go teach him the bit. My mom goes, all right, go learn the bit. So they take me back, and they teach me and everything, and we did it live in front of the producers and the audience the only time we
Now,
did
were
it.
those guys a team or something before Laverne and Shirley? Or
They were. They had been doing an act. Some of their characters were really dirty versions of Lenny and Squiggy. And then they did it at a party that happened to have some people around that are like, they'd be great on Happy Days.
Cindy was here very close to her death, wasn't she?
Yeah.
A few months.
She played my mom.
Adorable.
And that was it was heartbreaking. It was towards the end when they were counting lines.
So things were.
They had
Did
to have
you
a balanced, kind
did you
of
pick
thing
up on
going.
the tension on the set because we hear a
Yeah,
lot
you
about
heard
that.
the rumors before you go on there.
What was the bit that you did with David and Michael? What was the? Do you remember the
It
bit?
was a ventriloquist bit, and he was my agent, Stab Squignowski Talent Agency of Burbank, and we did. There was a girl from Nantucket, and it's very cute bit. Very cute bit.
Okay, number 3.
No, it's your turn.
Oh, number 3. Well, this is interesting because I don't know. Maybe you know how many actors were on both The Waltons and Little House on the Prairie. You're it?
Timothy. I was the blind kid. I got to work with Moses Gunn and Letty. No.
Look up Nettie on Little House on the Prairie.
She plays the blind school teacher. She sings Catalina Club. God, I can't remember her name. And it was, so this was interesting. Laverne and Shirley, we shot, the day we shot it, they used to do the shows on the night the show aired. So in this case, a Tuesday. Well, I'll always remember what day we taped Laverne and Shirley because it was the day they shot John Lennon.
Oh, my God.
And they have a studio audience sitting there with the Beatles poster on the set where they come down the stairs and kiss it. And they go, do we remove it tonight? They go, this episode airs in 6 weeks. Everyone will forget. What about tonight's episode? It's already in the opening credits, so they just left it up.
The character was Hester Sue, portrayed by actor Ketty Lester.
Ketty Lester.
Yeah.
She's fantastic.
She's great, yeah.
And so when we wrapped late at night on Laverne and Shirley, I violated the Coogan Act and I went to work at 8 o'clock in the morning at MGM on Little House on the Prairie. It's a different production. SAG will never catch it.
Oh, you prankster.
Wait a minute. So they aired Laverne and Shirley on the same night that it taped?
Yes, and most shows did back then.
No post-production or very
No,
quick
they would
post-production?
tape it on the night it airs, meaning if a show airs on Friday nights, they'll tape episodes Friday nights. They'll air that episode 6 weeks
6
from
weeks
now.
later,
But
yeah.
audiences
I got
lining
you.
up
I'm sorry.
outside get
I'm
all
sorry.
excited, and
I'm
it's the
sorry.
night the
Yeah.
show's on. Like
Right,
Tuesday
right.
was the Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley.
Oh,
I got
okay.
you.
So it's like in the air. I think folks today or people under 30 don't really get what it was like when we were all looking in the same direction.
No, there's too much immediacy that anyone can have it anytime they want, so nobody does it all together.
But there was an excitement about that.
Oh, yeah. You stand in line for a movie. You talk about it Monday morning.
If you
the
didn't,
water cooler moments.
when I was a kid, if you went to 4th grade and you hadn't watched The Batman, because it was on twice a week, so if you were going to be accepted into polite 4th grade society, you had to have seen Batman, because that's what everybody was talking about.
Back then, it was called broadcasting.
Broad.
Now it's called narrowcasting. We
Yep.
find out what you want and what show he wants and what show you want, what series you want, and we narrowly focus on
Yeah,
demographics.
Let
I
you
call
watch it when you want, and there's no more appointment
No
television.
common touchdown for anybody.
All right, you're next.
Okay,
You do
Mork
number
and
four.
Mindy, tell that story.
Mork and Mindy.
Yeah.
The
Scotty.
last episode. We'd already attended
The
tapings. My mom
last-
was a big fan. Jonathan Winters was on the show. I played a grade school newspaper interviewing Jonathan Winters. So they had come clean. They had said they're aliens. They told the world. So we're in the Plaza Suite and I'm interviewing him. And my mom, she goes, why don't you, Robin Williams improvises stuff, why don't you throw him this line? Because says he's got all of his papers or something. And she said, why don't you say, are you AKC? And I did. And he goes, oh. This is during rehearsal. He goes, I've got a player. And he ate me alive. And I'm near tears. I'm like, Mom, you made me do this. Guys, he just ate me alive. And I was trying to play with Jonathan Winters, but he's trapped in his own insanity.
Yeah.
He's doing a baseball bit where he's the pitcher. And he's doing a throwing and catching. And I go to sit as the catcher. And he does not throw me the ball.
Yeah, Robin's more reactive. and-
Robin's great. He tried to keep spirits up. There's a point where it just says in the script, Robin does a bit, and he takes
Wow.
whatever's there and figures it
How
out.
many seasons did that run before it was canceled?
Gosh, 6 or 7 seasons. We did it wasn't supposed to be the end. It was the third of a trilogy, so it was called Gotta Run Part 3. It wound up being the last episode ever aired.
Okay, go back to their planet. I don't want to give it away.
Yeah, I think they escape. They go through a time portal and it goes to be continued.
Spoiler.
And they never satisfy audiences.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, this one, you've answered a few questions about this in your career. Number 5 is Adventures in Babysitting.
Chris Columbus's directorial debut, Touchstone Pictures, whose goal now Disney didn't really enter live action until the 80s and 90s with Touchstone. They had Silver Screen Partners 3, the most successful film finance company in the history of film finance. You got a 600% return on your money. They did movies like Stakeout, Splash, Ruthless People, Outrageous Fortune. Their goal, make $8 to $10 million movies, and One of them hits 100
everybody
million.
checks.
Yeah, and everybody writes checks. So Adventures in Babysitting was a good test. Chris Columbus said he chose it because the scale was doable. Buildings and cars, and there's no spaceships or big explosions.
It was
or
a
anything.
huge hit. I mean, an underground hit, right?
It did great in that it opened in July 4th weekend summer. Who would open this little kids movie during the summer? And it not only had legs, it went up second weekend, ran for 8 weeks. What movies do that anymore? At $8 or $10 million budget, make it $36 million. Touchstone was pretty happy. They did redo it for Disney Plus. Adventures in Babysitting, rated G. They took out all of the bad words. The thing about Adventures in Babysitting,
It's
it
subversive.
ain't made for kids. It has 5 of the 7 words you
Yeah.
can't say on television. But it's fun when they do the TV version. Don't fool with the babysitter.
You're talking about how much films are made for and all the in the weeds stuff, and you're very outspoken about runaway production. I read in some of your interviews that. How do you feel about runaway production? Is instead of doing films and television where they should be done in L.A., where everybody lives that does them, because they don't get enough of a tax break in the state of California, people go to Georgia and Vancouver and all these other
Why
places.
should there be tax breaks at all? Anywhere. Why are we subsidizing entertainment companies? Especially to make product like... It's so weird. These companies are taking on debt. Apple's 113 billion in debt. Sony's 132 billion in debt. Netflix 15 billion in debt. And we're giving them tax breaks to subsidize more debt? Absolutely not. Let them make good content. And people come back to the theaters. The problem with LA is this is where the infrastructure is, and only 1 out of 5 TV shows are shot here now. It's Detroit. If they don't keep it up, well, by the way, you know who goes out of business? Dry cleaners, prop houses, effects houses.
During the pandemic, I really learned that because I live in Toluca Lake, and all those little businesses adjacent to Warner Brothers and Disney just died. Restaurants and flower shops, and they all suffered so greatly. So your feeling is that how do we keep production in L.A. then?
Well, I think it's been shown you could make movies cheaper. Honora just won an Oscar for Best Picture. It cost $6 million. Doesn't mean you can't make a really great picture for very little money. Tangerine was shot on an iPhone. I think that if you do make a big tentpole 4-quadrant, $200 million movie, well, listen, no person in town can guarantee a hit. That's still a really big risk. So I think we're coming to a time of the 70s. The economics sure look like it, too. Remember, we were switching license plates just to get gas in the 70s.
Yeah.
So people can't really afford movie tickets. And there will be a contraction on streaming services. People aren't going to have 8 or 9 services. They'll all conglomerate.
No, they're going to have to consolidate, I think.
And there's this immediacy. People need it now. And that's a lot of server space. That's a lot of water and cooling systems. And I can see the conglomeration of the media coming to like 3 companies, ABC, NBC, CBS. And instead of just anyone watch it anytime we want, really to save energy in the planet, you're just going to have to watch it at 8 o'clock with everybody else and wait.
And
Have some
talk about it.
patience.
And talk about
Have
it the next
something
day.
to talk about. Have us all feel and have catharsis at one time.
There are rhythms and patterns to life.
Yes.
And sometimes
and the
we
natural
expand
rhythm,
and contract.
thousands of years ago, a village of 100 people. Now we have our hunters and our gatherers and the people that thatch the roofs. We let the old people watch the young kids, but we always have one storyteller,
Right.
soothsayer, medicine man, magi. They don't go on the hunt, but when the hunters come back with the food and they light the fire and they start cooking, the storyteller stands up and they talk about the movements of the stars and the planet, what it means to live and die and be a human, when to plant the crops. And at the end of the night, the hunters break off some of that pig and they give it to the storyteller because they have served their community.
You were that
We
guy.
can't have 99 storytellers and 1 hunter. We will starve to death. There is a bar for sitting in that seat, and it is to tell the truth. Be honest. And through comedy, through drama, histories, biopics, just tell the truth. And I think all of that will come back, and audiences will come
and
back.
I think
I
you were
bet
that
you
guy
are-
in a past life or several past
I
lives.
bet you are fantastic at your job. which is
I have fun.
tour guide at Sony.
On this spot, they fed Speed. Did
Wait,
you
before
know?
we get to
I'm
that,
sorry,
Fritzy,
that's
we
wrong.
have
It was
two
over
more.
there.
Oh, we have two.
We have two more
okay.
IMDb
No,
left.
I do. I have so much fun because we get to tell stories about Jack.
Yeah,
and
we'll get
thing.
back to it. Don't blow your cover. Go ahead. Is it my turn?
I think so.
So Adventures in Babysitting, we did that one. Toy Soldiers, you talked about that, where you played Snuff Bradbury. What a great name.
Yeah, all the other kids had to work out and be tough and like oil up and go to the gym. I'm playing an asthmatic who's just doesn't care, smoke cigarettes, and I called him Rich White Trash, and I really enjoyed him. And what was great about that is the second unit director was Mickey Moore. He had directed the Raiders of the Lost Ark truck chase sequence, and we're shooting second unit with him, and he's telling John Wayne, Katharine Hepburn stories. That's the fun, and that's the thing about the L.A. cruise. These are the guys that did that. These are the guys that faked Africa when they had to do reshoots for African Queen here down in L.A. These are the people that parted the Red Sea, and the people that built the ziggurats and the great Western towns, and we're just really afraid of losing that.
I think often about how different lifetimes intersect on the planet. Even if they're only spending 10 years together, you're 10 years old and you're on the planet working with guys who are 70, and they had these experiences in silent film and on up. And it seems to me were a curious enough kid that you used your time with them well.
I didn't find anything different through the generations. Vaudeville to silence to talkies to movies to TV was all the same engine. It was all the same people just trying to kind of crack each other up.
But they had stories to share with you about what they had done.
They do. We can't repeat a lot of them. But,
Okay.
Okay, one of the great titles of a film, Don't Tell Mom, The Babysitter's Dead. That's a huge sort of a cult film as well.
Yeah, it was fun. It was subversive. The producers had done Sex, Lies, and Videotape. It was too small for independent, too big for this, too small for the studio.
Was it
too big
Steven
for the independent.
Soderbergh or the people that
It
produced
was the
film?
people that produced it and backed Soderbergh for that. And they had set on a few people. Finally, they looked at Ed O'Neill for the Gus, the lascivious character. And he goes, I can't do it, but Christina would be a great lead. I'll get her the script. So we got Christina Applegate the script maybe second or third season of Married with Children. And she's just absolutely perfect for the role, effortless. I was originally up for the clown dog boy. Josh Charles did a great job with that part. However, I had just played a nerd in love with the babysitter. And my grandfather said, never do the same part twice. You get typecast. Today they call that branding, but I didn't know that. So I told Sharon Bialy, I go, hey, I'll read for this, but can I come back in a bit and show you something? And so I read, and she goes, all right. And I go back to the car, and I get a wig and torn jeans. And I come back, I kick in the audition. All right, let's go. Who's in charge? And I booked it. And this was a wig. I got a $3,000 handmade human hair wig. Wigs by Ziggy, an old Burbank hair and makeup guy. And I'm getting my wig fitted. And I look on the wall, and I see a picture of my grandfather.
Cool.
I go, why do you have a picture of Jackie Coogan there? He goes, in the 60s, his PR people said he needed a hairpiece.
Oh, my God.
So the same guy that made hairpieces for my grandfather made Kenny's wig for Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. Very strange.
Patterns.
So we did that. It was actually called The Real World. More like Working Girl, Secret of My Success. It was focused on her lying about her credentials and trying to fake it in the corporate world. Well, mid-production, MTV called and they said, we're doing this reality show called The Real World. We said, what's a reality show? The show? And they said, we'll get back to that later. You need to change your title. So we ran 100 titles by kids. Marketing looked and they got a result and they said, your new title is Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. I said, are you kidding me? There's apostrophes and possessives and I go, there's no way anyone's going to say it the same way. This is way too long. And you roped me into a second babysitter picture.
That's right. Well,
But we remade it just recently. Same producers.
You now own a subgenre.
I do. I've now done the third babysitter. Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. The remake. Written by Chuck Hayward. He wrote Dear White People, WandaVision, and last season is Ted Lasso. It is a black family now. What is the difference between a white family living in the suburbs and a white cop comes to the door looking for a dead white babysitter in the freezer? and a black family living in the suburbs, and a white cop comes to the door looking for a dead white babysitter in the freezer. Chuck Hayward said, "More cops, shorter movie." So, and also it's a different dynamic because Christina Applegate's character is suddenly thrust with taking care of her siblings, and I don't know what I'm doing. And in a black family, that oldest daughter has been taking care of the kids since she was 8.
Wow.
That's not the story. It's rated R. I cannot quote the new one. Oh, by the way, I'm in it. Joanna Cassidy's in it. We have 3 cameos, same producers. Michael Phillips, who produced Taxi Driver, Jaws, Close Encounters, and Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
What's genius about the title is that you go to the movie just to find out, wait, how do they pull this off? Because Mom's going to hear, just through the rumor mill that the babysitter's. So
the conceit was Risky Business had come out, and the writers, Neil Landau, Tara Eisen, said, parents leave town and it's a boy and everything falls to hell. If it was a girl, maybe the family would pull everything together. And so Don't Tell Mom. Everything's better when the mom
But the
comes
new
back.
title could actually be, don't post on Instagram that the babysitter is dead.
Don't tag Mom in our post.
Don't tag Mom in the picture of the dead babysitter. Okay.
So
I'm working on it.
You're like a Rolodex of show business information, names and things. So you must be a fantastic tour guide. You're a tour guide on the Sony lot right now. You've done it at other lots as well.
Mm-hmm. I primarily focused that it used to be MGM. It used to be Columbia Pictures.
Yeah, it was MGM. And then I wondered if, as you're giving a tour, are you allowed to insert your own life and own resume into this? Like, I just happen to be on that thing. Are you allowed to do that?
I do it sparingly.
This was my
first of all,
dressing
I
room.
might be at the window and I'll checking people in for the tour and I'll just hear, "Dishes are done, man." Or, "Are you Keith Coogan?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm Keith. You're on my tour."
So they
They're like,
quote
"What
you
is
to
going
you?
on?" And we have streets across the street that used to be Lot 2 of MGM, where Gene Kelly danced and sang in the rain. Now it is a retirement community and single-family homes. But the streets are named Garland Way, Astaire Boulevard, Skelton Road, and Coogan Circle.
Oh,
We have
wow.
a street name. It's the shortest and furthest from the main lot, like his career. But that's how I introduce the family. I'll go in front of the schoolhouse and I go, "Here's where my family's history hits the thingy." I'll talk about the Jeopardy stage and go, "They used to do Dallas and Chips and Little House in here." I know because I did 4 episodes of Chips as a child actor. And at that point they go, "What's happening on the tour?" Drop the Fox and the Hound. But I don't want it to be the Keith Coogan tour, but every 20
Yeah, but
feet I
that's
can
like
go, "I stood on those steps with Joe Mantegna and pretended like it was Arcadia from Joan of Arcadia." So it's a weird.
But that's like a value added for these people. They won the lottery.
Yeah.
I hope some people just go, never saw those films. I don't know who you are." Because I used to get recognized. And a lot of commercials and stuff, people come up and go, "You look familiar." And I go, I did TV and movies. And my wife goes, "Just tell them. Just tell them." Finally, a girl comes up and goes, "Oh, you look familiar." And I go, "Well, I did star in Adventures in Babysitting." She goes, "No, Keith, we went to Salmo High together. We were in band." You never know.
Tell us about Pinky. I love
Pinky, my wife.
Yeah.
12 years now. We met at my first autograph convention.
that. Oh, my.
And she was not a fan of me. She didn't know who that guy
Why?
was.
So she was there for what purpose?
She was there for the Growing Pains cast. We had Jeannie was there and stuff. She loves to get selfies with celebs. And Jeremy Licht from the Twilight Zone and Hogan's Family was next to her.
Yep.
And her friends were like, "Oh, we got to get Keith Coogan. It's Keith Coogan emergency." She's like, "I don't know who Keith Coogan is." They had signed pieces from Adventures of Babysitting. They need to get my signature on these pieces.
Sure. Yeah.
So they go rushing over, and she's like, "Well, I might as well get a picture with this jerk too." So she comes up. She goes, "How much for a photo?" And Scott Schwartz, who was in The Toy and Christmas Story, he's the kid that got his tongue stuck to the pole in Christmas Story.
Yeah.
He was the one that threw the con. He goes, "Everything's $20. They want a selfie, $20. They want a photo, $20, whatever."
He's a
And I
businessman.
went, $20. And she goes, "Wow, that's kind of a lot. I don't know if like $20 like him." She goes, "All right, I'll do the selfie or whatever." So we pay the money, and I get up, come around the table to take a picture with her, and we get kind of face to face, and that was it.
Magic.
We were mad. We were like, "There you are." Really, after I'm 43, she's 40. It just wouldn't have worked out any other time of our lives.
Does
We
she
get
get
real close. She's like, I'm like, what, are we going to start to kiss or whatever? She goes, "What, are you going to charge me?"
Does she get free selfies now?
Yeah, she gets all the free selfies she likes. And now every day is a Keith Coogan emergency for my
it
wife.
really is.
So you got her number, and then
So
it just
love at first
it
sight.
transpired.
No,
from
we
there?
did. She goes, well, why don't we trade numbers? Why don't, she knows actors can't really give out their private. She goes, why don't you take my number and then call me? And I said, I can't believe I married her. I said, why don't we see how it goes on Twitter? And you know what? Somehow she stuck with me. We started flirting there. We saw each other again 2 months later. A week after that, we were engaged.
So how
And
did
we
it
got
go on
married
Twitter?
that
Wait,
October
back
on
up.
my grandfather's birthday, October 20th.
No.
How did
Most men forget their anniversaries. I'll
Keith,
never forget my
how did it
grandfather's
go on
birthday.
Twitter, and who slipped into whose DMs?
She said I had like beautiful eyes. I said she has beautiful eyes.
I like this.
And arranging that I would be at the Hollywood Autograph Convention coming up. She's like, "Oh, I'm going to be there." And she even helped me at my table as my booth babe. She calls it booth bitch, but sometimes I forget the money. I just like the stories and talking to people. She's like, "Did you get the money?" And she'll go chasing after me. And it really
Is she
just
in the
clicked.
business professionally?
She is not. She's in communications. Her dream is to be an on-the-street reporter.
Wow.
But she is, working for Disney right now in Imagineering, and it's just it's interesting that we're both working on studio lots here. Really enjoying the time.
So
we
when
travel
you're
a lot
writing
for
this
those
book,
conventions.
I mean, you
Yes.
certainly can drop enough names to make a really fascinating book.
It's going to be called "How to Get Your Kid into Show Business." That's what I get asked a lot.
So you're really going to do it.
Every story is the big break. Jackie Coogan's break, my break. The first big job, mine, his. The first time the money was mine, his. What they did in the later years, mine, his. So it's a double biography, and it's also a primer for families that want to.
So you've written this book, or at least conceived of it.
No, I've got the chapterized, maybe one or two written. I don't have time.
But also how to
But yes, I do. I would love to get something like that.
But also how to take care and raise your showbiz kid so that he he gets his childhood.
Yeah, raise a kid. Jason
Yeah.
Bateman was just on Conan's podcast, and he said twice a year finals would come up. And he goes, if I fail, it's 30 or greater, whatever. He goes, I lose my work permit. Everybody's out of job. Valerie's out of a job. The crew's out of it. We can't film. SAG will pull my work permit. That stress. Now, I had bleeding ulcers at 12, just paying all the bills.
Oh, you
and
did?
Stressing about I didn't book this or I didn't get that.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it was a lot of stress.
Wow.
Were you able to talk to your mom about it?
Not when I was just working and doing chores and doing my schoolwork. She wanted me grounded, so I had no free time. I was heavily scheduled.
She wasn't necessarily a stage mom, was she?
No, she's behavior modification, child psychologist. I was raised in a Skinner box with operants, positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement.
Really?
It worked. I could get in there, learn a bit, learn about the
causes
other adults,
ulcers.
learn what the director wanted, and go, they need this right here. And just deliver it. One take. And the producers know that. So I kept working for the same producers. They go, they're going to be on time. He's going to nail it. We don't have to worry about him causing trouble. And I look at my IMDb and I realize, Paul Blinn, Asselin, they were Spelling. They were producers that really just kept hiring me. So thank you.
Well, you were dependable.
I love to hear that. Well, is he really good? Is he talented? He's dependable.
Well, what I mean by that is that,
doesn't
there's
steal money.
for any kid actor, there's like 500 people whose jobs depend upon that kid actor showing up and being professional. You're 10. It's not your job to be professional unless it's your job to be professional. Every other kid is doing an amateur thing at 10.
What's interesting is Macaulay Culkin. This was the first time. I know my grandfather. That's the 20s. There was never another child star until Macaulay Culkin that changed how kids were treated. After Macaulay, they got top money, top billing. Kids were starring in pictures. They weren't even getting top billing because they're children. So now that kind of parody happened. And if it wasn't for Macaulay, thank you. I know he's mentioned the Coogan Act and stuff like that. Thank you, Macaulay. It really helped a lot of kids step up, negotiate, and get paid because they're bringing in the box office.
But when I say dependable, that's just like the first rung. You're a good actor. You are a really good actor. You're very engaging and very expressive. So
Thank you.
We're
knew a bunch of carnies. This is the last circus.
And you're a great
This
storyteller.
is the last carnival. This is the last
What do you
job
mean?
you can find yourself working at 3 o'clock in the morning in the middle of the desert under a fake name, and it's all legal. I love it.
Well, thank you so much for being with us. What can we look forward to? What do you have coming up?
Loaded for Bear, neurodivergent filmmakers. They're in it. They wrote it.
Nice.
John Kapelos, he is the janitor in Breakfast Club and the jerk husband in 16 Candles. That is, I think the Academy is really going to like that. And also American Mother. I play PR agent to Ruby. What's her name with the kids in the basement with the cellar and the chained up handcuff? Ruby, she's an influencer.
Frankie?
That's it. And, well, somebody's got to get her on Drew Barrymore. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. I mean, she didn't kill anybody.
She
She'd
really-
be great on The View.
She
I
chained
think.
up her kids?
That's my part. So, I know. Anything, I answer the phone. This is Keith. I'll do it.
Right, but you have autograph shows coming up, and also where can people find you online?
KeithCooganOnline.com. All the socials.
I
is
want to
just
hear about
Keith
the
Coogan.
call sheet. Are you still doing that?
No, I did the call sheet for a year, 50 hours of radio. It was followed up. I handed it off to a friend who then called it the Rap Party. He is.
It was a show business oriented.
Yeah, I was. I'd have Billy Zabka on, or my friends. We talk about exactly what we're doing right now. I think I could kind of get them to open up a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Just because we have a shared experience, and there's a shortcut there to try to get to the story. And it would be an hour or two. It was really freewheeling. Our radio producer was a big Bukowski fan. He believed in a lot of truth, and we had some remarkable shows. And it was because of that radio show I had Scott Schwartz on. He said, you should do an autograph convention, and How I Met My Wife. If it wasn't for the call sheet, I wouldn't have met Pinky.
That's you just
the universe
following
talking to you.
the path of the universe.
What?
Oh, look, it became nighttime. Okay, so Keith Coogan has been with us. Here come your closing credits. We want to thank our wonderful guest, Keith Coogan. Our team includes producer Dina Friedman, John Maddox, Bill Filipiak, Mason Brown, Raf Rusak, Jordan Reyes, Haley Freight, and you. Our theme music is by me and John Maddox. I am Louise Planker, here with Fritz Coleman and Keith Coogan. Be well and wise, take care of each other, and we will see you along the media path.
That was great. You're very entertaining.
Nina's new ringtone.
That was a lot of fun.
It